Boom, boom. Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney, coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks on historic Route 66 with our always special guest, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. He is a real person, so you can call him and send him an email. I had a guy today, Brian. He said, "Hey, I have this 65 thing. I'm not sure about the 66 on Test Geek." I said, "Call Brian. He'll tell you what the overlap. He'll help you out. You don't need to get all worked up about things." We'll take care of some housekeeping, and then we'll get going. So we're here every week. It's our ritual Tuesday. We're here to answer your questions, content, fun, fellowship. It's helpful if you tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from, just to see what kind of group we have. Oh, man, we've had over 1,000 views of last Tuesday's live stream, Brian. I mean, we have people joining us from foreign countries, and sometimes they tell me English is a second language. And I go, well, good news for you, because the test isn't in English either. So you'll be able to translate twice. When we get to the content, it's helpful, not necessary, but it's helpful if you tell Brian and I what exam you're taking, because how they test on different things in terms of depth, it can be challenging. So, sometimes we can figure it out from the context, but if you tell us, it's helpful. The best free resource for you as a test taker is my YouTube channel. It's organized in series playlists. So you would go to 66, for example. In the front of that playlist is a podcast series that Brian and I did, followed by some lectures, including a video Brian did for us in the evening. There's lots of practice tests, so on and so forth. So go to your series playlist in the playlist tab, find your series, find those playlists. Those videos are in suggested watch order. So, it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. The playlists are in suggested watch order as well. It's okay. It's all right. But Brian and I know this evening we're going to get asked questions that have been asked and answered many times, and they reside in video forever. And so whether it's parity or accrued interest or margin, please just go to the channel search bar, put in whatever you're looking for: accrued interest, margin, parity, efficient market hypothesis, whatever, cash versus, accrual accounting. And then those content will magically appear. So, but that's okay. Like I say, put it into the channel search bar. And tonight, that's fine. We'll answer any questions you have, or attempt. Sometimes we're able to answer your question and not willing. And sometimes we're willing and not able. No, I'm joking. If we're able, then we are willing. Now, if you're looking for a paid supplement, I think you do no better than a Kaplan Qbank if you don't already have one in your possession. And for Series 7, for example, the discount code at checkout, Guru 15, gets you over 3,600 questions that you can turn into custom quizzes, take intellectual inventories. That comes in at $55.80. Most importantly, and this is what I think makes Kaplan's Qbank best in class, is it has a performance tracker, which makes it easier for you to identify areas for remediation. Now, the other thing I would add to that, these I think would be my best if you're looking for paid supplement. If you add to that Brian's video course, that's a little over $100 all in. And Brian's video course is a great distillation of this content. Sometimes people say, "Oh, Brian didn't talk about it." And I go, "Well, that's a hint." If he didn't talk about it, probably not on board. Right? So those would be the two that I would recommend for you. If you win tonight, our coaching call, you do not win a tutoring session at a date and time of your choosing. That's not what you win. What you win is a coaching call. You go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You'll see coaching call winner. You hit that, and then I'll show up when you hit the link, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about in terms of your exam. Everything on my YouTube channel is free. There is no upsells of any kind. Brian and I aren't trying to sell you anything. I mean, we've mentioned that you can get a discount, but there's no channel memberships. There's no coffee cups. There's no baseball caps. There's none of that. Opposite on my booking page. At deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, almost everything is paid for. You have to pay. There are exceptions. I told you the coaching call, and we do a weekly Q&A jam session that's open to everybody. And that's where I can do a Brian invitation with a whiteboard and go into a little more depth than we can do here, even with Brian's beautiful board. You can tell where Brian's at by the border of his whiteboard. When it's brown, that means he's in the Northwest. I think it's pretty bad that he turned a 1,000-year-old redwood tree into a frame. Not teasing. And if it's aluminum, then he's in Vegas, baby. You're not alone. You are not alone. We have a tribe. Guru Nation here, but we also have some communities on Facebook. We have our baby brokers doing hat tricks. Baby broker is a term of endearment in the securities industry for rookies. A hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. Think SIE 663, SIE 766. You get the idea. We're coming up on 1,400 members on that, Brian. We got about 5-6 posts a day. We have chats for every different exam that there is. You can go in the chat, and it's starting to take off on its own. So I'm there as well. I'm not. If you can't find me on Facebook, I'm not a big Facebook fan. But if you're looking for me, feel free to come over to YouTube or somewhere else. Reddit. We also have our Reddit communities for the 6 R Series 6. We have for the SIE and 7 R Series 7. For all the NASA exams, R Series 66. And for 9s, 10s, 24s, R Series 24s. Okay, so I'll get to the what we got going on, Brian, and see what everyone wants to talk about. But before I do, this came up today, Brian. This is a test-taking trick I offer. Somebody sent me a question. It was a judgment question. 3 styles of questions you get on your exam are recognition, practical application, and judgment. And in this judgment question, Brian, they asked this test taker what he should do. Should he accept the call on the convertible bond? Should he, sell the bond in the open market? Should he turn it into the stock? And one of his D choice was they're all equal. Don't ever take you can't figure out. It's all equal. You can't, not enough information to determine. Those are never correct. Never correct. So do you concur, Brian, that don't take those bailout kind of answers offered to you?
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I don't even think they're offered on a real FINRA or NASA exam.
You know what? I got the same thing. I told him test prep vendor, how good are we, Brian, sometimes at guessing the test prep vendor based on the question that somebody sends us? And this,
how old are we?
Yeah, that's true. And he was asking what would be the least attractive thing to do in this situation. And when you miss that least, he was beating himself up. He said, Dean, I thought I had this down, and he was telling me how he got his answer. And I said, well, if it said, what would you do? You would have been correct, but you missed what's the worst thing to do, which was to turn it into the stock at below parity. So just wanted to share that test-taking trick with you. By the way, if you agree with that, even on the real exam, I'm with Brian's more test prep vendor, but that gives you 1 in 3 chance.
That's right.
Because you can eliminate that warm, fuzzy bailout answer. All right, let's see what we got going on. Levi took the 66 practice exam, got a 78. Woo! 82. Okay. I would only say I would like to have I don't think you should be monogamous as it relates to study material. So, I'm not offended, Brian, when I'm open up the Zoom link. Oh, I spent some time with Brian last week. I go, wonderful. It's not a bad thing. I would just want to confirm that data point with a test from some other vendor than Achievable, just to confirm the score. But I think you're great. If you go to my Series 66 practice test, you can find a Nopman and STC. Brian's, I think, has the best correlation. So just confirm that. But I think you're in good shape. I think you're in great shape. That was me. I was telling people, for those of joining us the first time, we do a toast for testing victories. And then I asked him, what should be our beverage for testing victories? And what we settled on is, woohoo!
Wow.
This is was sent to me by a student, Brian, and this is Jim Kramer's wife for Mezcal Company in Baja, California. So Mezcal was the winner. All right, let's see. Officially an accredited investor. All right, woohoo! Now time for the 66. Is it true that Kaplan is trickier? The answer is absolutely. Brian has one of his favorite people at Kaplan is a guy named Chuck Lowenstein, who's the subject matter expert at Kaplan for content. And I always tease him as much as I made it about Brian, but as much as I tease him, about being eccentric, because he does have gotcha questions. I think in general, he's much trickier. However, when you see, if you don't have Brian's supplement, if this is another reason to have Brian's supplement, every once in a while, Brian on one of his practice tests has a very similar question to Chuck on Kaplan. And then you go, we know that's probably there or something along those lines. So I think you're pretty good shape. Be careful about being accredited. You're not accredited until you're in good standing. I don't want to rain on your parade. But, just passing the 7 or the 65 doesn't make you accredited. The language is in good standing. So that makes sure your registrations are effective. Hey, I'm almost finished reading my 66 book. Well, kudos for just that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to cheers for toast. Ooh, mezcal.
I hear this sentence at least once a week. See what I mean?
Brian, let's see if you're with me on this. Noah, I'm going to say, it'll be interesting if Brian's going to be as tough love as I'm going to be. I don't like the question because it reflects, I think, a lack of respect for the 66 in and of itself. You have every right to have a pep in your step, having just slain a Series 7 dragon. And then you start reading the book and you do see some similarities. However, I don't think you should. I think you should start as a tabula rasa, a blank slate in terms of your attack plan on the 66. So I don't know if there's a percentage. I mean, investment vehicles, perhaps. And I don't know, Brian, do you think we should even entertain going down that road of the overlap or not?
No, at all. As you know, the podcast that you and I recorded, one of the first things we said was Series 7, be careful. You just passed your exam. Good for you. Kudos, congratulations. Now throw that away because this thing ain't anything like the 7.
Yeah.
So be careful. That's why every time I see that statement, I go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
We don't want to send you any negative testing vibes your way, but in our own situation, we don't like the question because it reflects maybe we don't know you well enough. I don't mean this to be, anything other than wishing the best for you in terms of passing. But what we don't like about the question is we would prefer you just start at ground zero and then take it as it comes and then hey, I think I can review this. And there's enough of it that even the overlap is tested a little differently. For example, volatility, now we have a fancy term called duration. So, and when people do struggle, I'll link to the podcast, Noah, not tonight, but by tomorrow, I'll link with that podcast Brian and I did. As I said, you should start, we think, every testing journey with our podcast series, where we give you a good reconnaissance, an overview of what it looks like, the terrain that you're about to, encounter. And, we would like you to read the book cover to cover, but, some people won't do that. And so this kind of gives you a nice overview of that. So just the way I would approach it, to be pleasantly surprised when you read your book. Oh, yeah, I remember some of that from my 7. So I don't want to give you a percentage, but you can, and we always agree that you should get the test specifications from NASA, and you can look at the 66 investment vehicles, and that's a good way to find that overlap, right? Where you could put 7 next to something that you recall from that. I have it happen the other way too, Brian, with test prep vendors, where I think somebody's asking me a 66 question, but they're encountering it in their 7 content. And, I'll answer it. I'll say, wow, that's kind of a strange thing on a 7. I mean, on a 66, it's definitely there. I kind of, Brian and I can go on another rant here pretty quickly. I attribute this sometimes, Ryan, to what I call the chunk theory, where test prep vendors have like a chunk of information and then they cut and paste it and it's in everything. It's the same discussion, the SIE on the 7 and the 66. So I wish we could be more helpful. Jazz, I haven't had anybody tell me they got tested on de minimis on 144 in years, but it's or, it's not both. So, it's an or. So it was called de minimis. I don't think it's testable. Well, questions go both ways. I wouldn't worry about it because I don't think you're going to encounter it on the actual exam. 66 for the 12th. By the way, though, before we move on, I would tell you, you're definitely going to need to know 1% of the outstanding stock or the average of the last 4 weeks trading volume, whichever is greater, in a 90-day period, right? And you have to file the Form 144. That part of it is very testable. And then this idea, is the stock been held for 6 months or not? Because, there's 2 versions of the stock that is freely transferable and then stock that is not. And that could be part of the question as well. Let's see. Well, it is. Brandon, I'm not sure how to make the distinction in my enunciation between an E, an O, and an I. Brandon, I'll just take a chance, Brandon. Apologize if I'm not getting that right. People are incredulous with us when Brian and I say we think the 65 is the toughest exam. And boy, sevens are just incredulous. How could you say the 65 is harder? But we think for people like yourself who are coming to the 65 without a background in any of this stuff, that could be a real challenge. So I agree with you. So what's that Eskimo saying? How do you eat a whale? I think it's an Eskimo saying, bite by bite. Or the way I say it, my thing is inch by inch. Your 65 is a cinch. Yard by yard, your 65 is hard. So you've got to make sure you're not looking at that book and going, oh my God, there's no way to get started. You got to jump in and start taking it down, right? SIE, Atlanta, all right. Studying for my six. There we got a lot of 65s. 65 is a pretty popular exam. And, like I said, Brian and I were first to admit, difficult. I shouldn't say difficult, challenge. SIE, 7, woo, all right. Trifecta. Hat trick, woo.
Hat trick.
That mezcal has a kick.
Yes, it does.
Studying for the SIE, Olex. Series 7, all right. Brunch with Belinda, I love that. Retired educator life, I love that. Please review for 65 the hedging offered with. Well, Joanne, I don't mean with. I'm assuming that's with what? I'll just talk in general. I don't think hedging on the 65 is going to make or break you. I don't think it's material. However, hedging means offset risk, right? I got my contractor, Brian, put in a fence, a hedge to keep the cows out. Hedges keep good things in and bad things out. So here, what we're trying to keep out is risk. So when you hear hedge, you should be thinking protection. You should be thinking insurance. The one I think, Joanne, that might show up, and I'm always torn about how many options, how much work you should do on derivatives is relates to your 65, because it could end up being a rabbit hole. You could be spending hours on something that is, not going to give you a lot of points. But I would be prepared to say on the test that if you have a customer who has a long stock position, that we might want to recommend buying a put, or if we have discretionary authority, buy a put on that stock position. 2 questions for you, Brian.
Yeah.
What do you think about, is derivatives on 65 a rabbit hole? And then secondly, is that your debrief as well, that it's mainly about hedging, not speculating?
It's all dependent upon your draw. You might get 1 or 2, or you might get 5. Yeah. And there's none in between. It's either very few or quite a few.
One more, Joanne, that does show up every now and again is, let's say that I call you up and I say, Joanne, Dean checking in with you. I know I have some discretionary authority on your account. You told me you've got some money you're going to be putting into your portfolio here later this month. And I have a stock and it's at 20 right now. And I'm going to want to buy 1,000 shares, but we don't have the $20,000 right now. So what I might recommend, Joanne, is let's buy 10 of the 20 calls for $2,000 to lock in that price at 20 and defer a decision of that, whether we want to go forward at a future date. So maybe buying a call on the expectation you may have more money coming in the portfolio. That shows up every now and again. And then, Brian, do you see the income? Well, she asked about hedging. A covered call I consider not to be a hedge, but more of a partial hedge, if you will, to generate additional income.
You're right.
Right. So, by the way, Joanne, in my Series 65 playlist, I'm always putting option videos in and then taking them back out because I just can't decide how much time you should devote to that. But if you go to my options playlist or go to the 65 playlist, you'll find I have basic option video in there. I've got some questions that I think you might encounter. Brian, any more questions on points on this hedging for 65?
Yeah, if you get quite a few number of option questions, there usually is a hedge question. Mm-hmm. And I guess this is semantics. It is typically the covered call.
Yeah.
In Series 7 and 65, I consider both buying the put and selling a call a hedge strategy.
Yeah.
They're for different purposes.
Well, I like that, Brian, because what Brian and I are trying to distinguish is you're not speculating if you own the stock.
That's right.
If you own the stock, you're a stockholder, and that's kind of the dominant position. So again, John, I apologize, but like I say, that's a tough one to kind of answer in brief.
Right.
And I think, would you agree with this, Brian? We're not saying this isn't going to be testable, but would you say there are more target-rich environments on the 65 than this?
Yes, absolutely.
Like disclosures, unethical business practices.
And again, you know how the textbooks love to do deep dives into some of this stuff. And with 600 pages of text, you really want to kind of budget your time wisely.
That's
the
exactly.
the investment vehicles, and some balance sheet.
Yeah, Joanne. So what I would say is this would be one of my cleanup areas. If
Right.
I've got the other stuff under control and I still have some time in the test, I say, okay, maybe I'll turn to on that. All right, general securities principle. Woo! We'll be sending you some good test vibes on the 24. Woohoo! Currently a week away from taking my SIE. My practice exam scores have been 64, 76, 72, and 68. I've reread the chapters, watched most of your cram course. Any suggestions for improvement? You're taking 1 week. So I would say maybe take tomorrow off, refresh, reset, come back to it. But I don't think those scores are indicating that you're not going to make your mark. I would prefer that all those scores were mid-70s. But you're a week away. I think you're in good shape. And I think if you continue to finish strong, I think you'll make your mark. So I wouldn't be too concerned about you. Just make sure you don't get wobbly. Don't get down on yourself and start, oh, how can I improve? We want you to improve, but don't make that start to be something that makes you lose confidence or causes you not to be executing your study plan in terms of laying more base, taking a couple more practice exams. Make sure on the SIE, for sure, 2 days out, Griffin, maybe a day out, take the FINRA SIE practice exam on the website of FINRA. That is a really good score that we can correlate with those, confirm those scores. So make sure you do that for sure as one of your last marks. On the channel, we also have other practice tests for you. We have Brian's SIE practice test. I just put up another live version where I did it with a student, Brian. He bought your thing. He said, can we do Brian's? I go, absolutely, we can do Brian's. That's there. You can watch me do it. There's a Notman, there's a STC, there's a Kaplan.
And like Dean and I always say, it's not about taking practice finals, Make sure you run the performance tracker, find the weak areas, and remediate those weak areas in between taking the finals.
You should be spending as much time on remediation as you are taking the exam.
Exactly.
You're not mindlessly trying to do practice tests. Practice tests are intellectual inventories to get a mark of where you're at. So if you want to improve the mark, the way you improve the mark is not by doing more practice exams. The way you improve the mark is through remediation. Go back and read, use the index, read, do some more practice quizzes on that particular area your weekend. Like I say, don't stack them one on top of another. I just talked to somebody today. She's testing next week. And I said, she just sent me, text me her score. And I said, just keep in touch with me. And I think 4 between now and your test date is fine. I don't want you doing more than 1 a day in any circumstance. And I even think 1 a day would be too much because that means you're now in this treadmill, what are those those things they have for, what are those things? They're not gophers. They're not mouses, hamsters, a hamster wheel, right? Yeah. Keep going around.
Yeah, I usually recommend practice final 1 day, remediation the next day.
Yeah.
So, you're not taking a practice final every day. It's basically every day.
And if you can, we don't know if you're full-time or part-time study, but if you can, take it in the morning. You don't want to be taking it after you've had a day at work if you're not, like a part-time study. She was telling me she's working all day and then she's doing it. She did her practice exam when she got home at 6 o'clock. I just don't, if you can, I realize some people can't, but if you can, I would reverse that. Before I go to work, I do my practice test and get my score. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're ready. I think that's a good score, Sean. So looking good. Series 7. All right. Yeah. Please review. I think, Joanne, this is the same thing. Offered for each. Buying a put puts in a floor. Let me give you an example. I think I gave you examples of this already, but cello puto, I don't know what that is. Well, I think what you have in the answer set, Joanne, is the 4 basic positions, right? We have 2 types of contracts, calls and puts. You can either buy them or sell them. So that means we have 4 basic positions, right? There we go. I call it the option matrix. What do you call that, Brian? You call it the beauty chart? Options aerobics. So there we go. So And Brian is one of the few people that integrates the hedges into his options aerobic chart, which is kind of helpful. But I'll just go through this. We just told you, Joanne, that you buy a put to protect against a big price decline, but still participate in a big price increase, right? So I call you up, Joanne. I say, hey, Dean here. You know that stock we bought at 90? You go, God, Dean, that was a great pick, my friend. It's 180. I go, yeah. What I'd like to do is buy some insurance, Joanne. What I'd like to do is buy a 175 put. They're pretty cheap right now. So we'd like to buy some insurance for 490 for the stock, 4 points for the protection. We're out 94, and now we have a guaranteed profit. You said, well, Dean, I thought you're not allowed to use the word guarantee. I said, I'm not. So when I can, I love it. I'm not guaranteeing you anything. If we have a choice to sell at 175, stock we bought at 90, woo! So we haven't put in a ceiling, we put in a floor. Selling a put, I don't think is ever going to be the right answer on the 65.
Correct.
Because selling a put is an obligation to buy the stock. You know, in other exams, maybe you get asked about selling a put as an alternative to a limit order, but I just don't think it's the right answer ever on 65. Selling a call, Brian has that up there. As you can see, it's in his income. That's a very conservative option strategy. I say, hey, Joanne, Dean here. How about we buy the stock at 90 and we agree to sell high, stock we just bought low? If we'll agree to sell the stock we just bought at 90 at 95, somebody will give us several $100s in premium. It's a good way to supplement our dividend income. So we're out 90 for the stock. Let's say we get 4 points for the 95 call. We do get some hedge, some price decline protection. Now, the disadvantage of selling the call is we don't participate past the strike price. We have a capped gain, right? And then I told you about buying a call. Buying a call almost always on 65. They don't like speculative uses of options. It's almost always a conservative use of the option. And I gave you a conservative use of buying a call, not to speculate, but to lock in a price, knowing that I have some money coming into the portfolio later on, or to defer a decision of whether I want to buy the stock or not. Right. In my example of buying the 20 call at 2, if at expiration is 15, I'm not going to exercise the call. All right. So kind of a difficult question to answer in a live stream Q&A. You might want to join me in a jam session where we have a whiteboard and I can walk you through examples. But again, our original point stands. Be careful. This could be an area where you can, go down a rabbit hole and never come back. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jamie. What would be the most effective study method for the 66? Read and how many practice questions using Kaplan? Appreciate your help. So Luis, have been asked this and answered it many, many, many times. So Brian and I are kind of OGs. We've been doing this for decades and we've helped tens of thousands of people. And hey, it's a buffet. If you don't want to listen to OGs like us, hey, fine. It's a new way to get it done. That's okay with us. I know it's old-fashioned, but we think you should start by reading the book cover to cover. If you're not going to read the book cover to cover, even if you do, then we think you should do our podcast series. Get a nice overview, 66. I'll link that in the video description. Then we believe, and I believe, this is kind of my spin on this, in establishing study blocks. To tell me, I studied all day. That really doesn't mean anything. So I like to say, the person I'm working with, I said, okay, how many study blocks are we going to commit to of 90 minutes? If you can do less, that's fine, or more, but I think more is a push. I said, listen, if you're a full-time studier, you start at 9 o'clock, 90 minutes, that's 10:30, 11, 90 minutes. You got to take a break, 30 minutes between to refresh and reset. That'll be a full day, 6 hours of study, 8-hour day, and there's your day. And I would rotate activities and subject date, change that challenge, it'll actually stay fresh. Now, what Brian and I think you should do is do unit 1. Once you do unit 1, then you do quiz, custom quiz, 25, 30 questions. We'd like mid 70s before you move on to unit 2. You move on to unit 2, same thing, rinse and repeat, except, and here's Brian's little spin on this, you don't move on to unit 3. You now do a combined quiz, unit 1 and 2. That way you continually bring up the caboose. Now, Brian has a PDF on building a study plan that he's offered in the past, and maybe he'll offer it to you again. By the way, if you're watching replays of our stuff and we make offers like this, it's not an offer that's good forever. Brian may want to retire someday Probably isn't going to honor a request for a PDF from 20 years ago. So, but I think he also has a YouTube video that goes over this a little bit. And you can put study plan into my search bar, and that will come back as well. So that's kind of our spin on how to proceed. By the way, we were talking about this earlier, but the person had a 65, and you got to start. So that start is kind of important. Currently watching Brian's 24 videos on Test Geek. Very helpful. Yeah, demo. I hope I'm pronouncing that, Chris. He has a free video on buy-in and closeout. I'm not making this up. 24s cry. Oh my God, I was so confused. And that video was like, I have it on my to-do list to make one. And every time Brian think about making it, I go, why reinvent the wheel? Brian's got a great one. So,
Would you like to put it in your playlist someday?
Yeah, I think I should probably just do that, Brian.
Let's make it easy. Put it in your playlist. Yeah.
There you go. I'll put it in there. That way I don't have to send them off to your YouTube thing. I'll say, Brian, get me permission to put it in there. I think it breaks down pretty well. So I'm glad. Once again, I think Brian's gift as a teacher is his ability to make distillation of, in this case, 24, and some other stuff. What is a prime broker? Well, Samantha, like I say, we're not going to give you grief about this. But if you put prime broker in the channel search bar, all kinds of videos will come up and content on this. I'll answer it again. This is SIE. It's very low probability. But let's say I have a hedge fund, Anvil Rock, management hedge fund. And, nobody has a monopoly on ideas, Samantha. So one institutional broker that has a very good reputation for research and execution is called BTIG. And so the institutional salesperson calls me, and I'm an institutional investor. I have a hedge fund. He says, Dean, I have an idea I'd like to share with you. I said, all about that. Nobody has a monopoly on ideas. What do you got? And when he goes over with me, and I go, okay, well, I'm going to pass on that. But listen, keep me posted, man. Anytime you have a good idea, give me a call. Now, listen, I realize that you guys make money as broker-dealers through transactions, either markup or markdown or commission, depending on whether you're trading from inventory. I get it. And I want you to be compensated for bringing those ideas to me. As I said, I'm not monogamous about who I trade with. I trade all over the street with whoever has a good idea. But my prime broker who provides me, here's the answer to your question, with execution and financing is Goldman Sachs. So if I do a trade with you, I want you to settle up with Goldman Sachs. The other reason I like this is because I can trade with UBS, BTIG, Citadel, all these other brokers. I'm getting one centralized set of statements rather than Samantha opening up accounts at all these firms and getting, 6 sets of statements. So the prime broker provides custody and financing for institutional investors. Now, the other reason, Samantha, not testable, I like a prime broker, is because if that guy blows it on the buy side, he will not see the sell side, right? In other words, if he doesn't blows it, I'll say, no, I'm going to sell it to one of my other brokers. So that's what a prime broker is. Very similar to this, Samantha. This is low probability, and this is now we're on to the 7. So prime broker, I think, is an SIE definition. In 7, something very similar. I say to my broker, Brian, I don't need you to hold my monies in securities as an institutional investor. State Street Bank and Trust holds my monies in securities for me. And you go, well, what's over there? I go, none of your damn business what's over there. I'll tell you what, when I do a trade with you, I'd like you to sell it with State Street, delivery versus payment. So, Brian, just deliver that to State Street. They'll settle up with you. Now, the only test question there is that Brian has up as his broker-dealer has 35 calendar days to settle up. It's not going to take Brian 35 days because he wants his money and he wants it now, right? So I hope that was helpful, Samantha. And again, if you put that into my channel search bar, some definitions will come up. You have anything to add to that, Brian?
You already said it. I think it has a very low probability of ever showing up on an SIE. Yeah,
I do too. So, Joanne, I don't know what's happening with your text you're putting in the chat bar. It looks like another one where it's kind of been cut it off. How many? Look, we'll play that word game. It sounds like Joanne's trying to say how many. So now let's see if we get another chat with how many what. Yeah, I feel bad. I don't have as much love for Series 6s as I should. I'm a one-man band. Yeah. What's that?
I'm guilty of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just tough. Ryan and I, it's, I'll take it to heart. I mean, I did start a Reddit for Series 6. I do have a playlist, and I probably should make an updated video. So maybe Brian and I have been talking about doing some more collaborations. Maybe, Brian, we could do a podcast series. I think that would be something we could probably do.
That would be wonderful. That would be
okay.
Wonderful.
So there you go. So Brian and I are in response to our audience. We're going to do a podcast on the Series 6. We'll set it up. And what do you think, Brian? Think we could do that next couple of weeks, you think? Or?
Yeah. I think
okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know when you're testing, but give us a couple of weeks. We'll at least get a podcast series up for you. I do really well in the Kaplan Qbank, but not the best. Well, whenever, Sean, you change vendors, your scores drop. Always, because of phraseology. One of the reasons, whether it's Kaplan going to STC or STC to Kaplan, one reason Brian and I don't like you, we don't want you to be monogamous if you have the resources, because sometimes people get very high scores on whatever Qbank they're using, and who cares about STC? But then they go to the test, and when we're surprised, in other words, people tell us they're getting great scores and they miss the mark, it's almost always because they memorize questions and answers rather than understood the concept.
That's right.
So I wouldn't feel bad, Sean. I don't know what really well on Qbank is and what the scores on STC. I would prefer we had like a real data point. I'm getting this on Kaplan. I'm getting this on STC. But I wouldn't worry about that. But put in the chat. Let us know what the here you go, 66s and 65s. Let us know what the variance is between those two, right? It might not be a high enough standard deviation to worry about. So what is that range? Aiden, triple crown. I love it. Well, it sounds like you're doing it weird. I love it. Okay, so you're going, you're going front and back again. I love it. I love it. So have you used the entire way? Okay, well, what do you think? I think and that's what we do here. The Series 7 Guru. I drink and I know things. Living off grid, Brian, I don't get to see you in Vegas, so I gotta make the fun where I can have it.
I guess.
Those just kill. I like it. I mean, change 6 answers. Oh no. Listen, we've shared with you that as OGs, we know what best practices are over the years. And you don't have to follow our best practice, but it hurts our heart because we tell you not to change answers. Another test taking tip. Your flash response is your best response. You should never change an answer unless you know you got it wrong. You still shouldn't change it. And you know what the right answer is. Otherwise, leave it alone. Very rarely on those 6 questions would you have met both those parameters. And I don't believe in going back. If this was a written test, I'd believe in going back perhaps, but you want to matriculate down the field into scoring position. You don't have this thing blinking telling you got these things you want to go back. By the way, if you're not a good test taker, watch game shows and model good game show people's techniques, right? If you're watching a good person on Jeopardy, for example, the guy answers quickly and he sticks with the right answer. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Is that your final answer? Good test takers, that's my final answer.
Absolutely.
They don't go, well, I don't know. Let me check with the audience. Right? So, and it hurts my heart. Good news. Let's put a positive spin on this. Good news. If you don't do that next time, you should pass, because I doubt you changed 6 answers that were wrong to 6 answers that were right. I bet it's 4-2, if not 6-0 on that. So good news, that's fixable. First time visitor. All right. Taking 24 in 3 weeks. Oh, we got a couple 24s in the house. Already finished the book. Just want to review cram so far testing. I love it. Need that final push. Yeah. 24 general securities principles. I don't know. Here we go again. We want to be positive. But when people miss the mark on 24, what they have in common is they come from a packaged product background and they get blown away on the trading and the banking. So make sure if you're a packaged product person that you overweight or overlearn banking and trading so you don't struggle on that, because that's where most of those misses come from.
That's absolutely the God's honest truth. Really
I have a guy, he's a trader, and I joke, Brian, that people who are traders and bankers, they struggle on the retail side of that 24, but that's not, you're not going to do them in, right? Like it if you do a brief breakdown of I think we did that, Luis. Did we not? I think we did that. Really, by the way, we're not going to do it again, Luis. But if you go back, you can you can rerun this thing. And then Brian offered his PDF. Is that what that is? A PDF, Brian? How to study?
Yes, it is. Yep.
So just send Brian. Let me just put Brian's email up there.
Please, I'd be more happy.
There you go. So there you go. So Luis, just send Brian an email, and he'll send you that PDF.
It's exactly what you're looking for. It's exactly what you're looking for.
Oh, there you go. I love it, man. You know, Brian doesn't oversell things, so he says exactly. You know,
exclamation.
Now I'm gonna push the envelope with our friend Brian because you know he does have free content on YouTube, but most of his stuff is paid. But he has been offering for you 65, 66s, and 63s his famous cheat sheet. My only thing I don't like about him calling it the cheat sheet is I'm always afraid that somebody's going to leave that at the exam site and it's going to say cheat sheet, and is that offer still good as well, Brian?
I probably send 5 or 6 of them every single day.
Okay, there you go. So again, offers made on Tuesdays and live stream expire or sunset at some point. I mean, we don't know when the sunset date is, but all right. Back to I got to learn how to better get to.
Yeah, we reference this on the podcasts a lot too. I think that's where a lot.
So that's why you're still getting that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard of anybody opening? I hope I passed. Okay, we passed. I passed my SI. Woo! Do I already ring the bell and do it though?
The answer is no. Well, I don't think Rome fell because of Roman numerals. I love it. That's a great line. I love
it. Yeah, we might have to steal that one, Brian. We might have to steal that one.
Well, it has fallen for the FINRA exams because there's
FINRA, you don't get but it's one of our pet peeves again.
Still has them.
We have to do a podcast episode where we just rants from the test geek.
Oh boy!
Because here's one of our
that
favorite.
Would last all day long, Dean.
Yeah. So Luis, one of my things about this, Brian just told you that Roman numerals don't exist on FINRA exams, but no test prep vendor wants to get rid of practice questions. So I don't know of any practice vendor that does still not have multiple questions.
A lot.
And it's one of my pet peeves. They haven't, they don't like to get rid of it. I get it that they don't want to get rid of it. So do I have some questions on my practice test from years ago that have multiples? I do. Do I want to take them down from the channel? I don't, because I think they're still valid in terms of content, even though not in a format that is out there anymore. But I get it, right? Because I have 2 less practice exams. So I get why they don't want to do it. The other one, Brian, is when they don't remove questions we know are no longer there, like recourse and non-recourse notes on partnerships, or overboard on margin, that kind of stuff. Have you ever heard of anybody opening a hobby solo RIA? Well, I don't know what you mean by hobby solo. Certainly don't tell that to anybody who's a regulator. You want to have a hobby solo registered investment advisory firm. I do know people who have registered investment advisory firms where the vast majority of the money being managed is their own. So maybe that's what I would think of as a hobby solo. All right. In my background, I had a broker dealer, and my broker dealer was a placement agent for hedge funds, venture capital funds, private equity funds. And then I had on the side, not a hobby IRA, but I had an IRA that managed friend and family money. And that was a small piece of my business. So, I would consider a hobby solo. But the problem here, again, let's put it in test terms. You would have to tell somebody that this is a hobby solo RIA. You would have to disclose that this isn't your, full-time thing or whatever. I've enjoyed teaching friends about financial literacy, but I'm worried about the compliance difficulty. Well, our registered investment advisory firms are easier than broker dealers for sure, right? But you'd be charging a fee. Education, financial literacy, if you're going to get paid, I think the better way to proceed is write books and sell books or sell seminars as an educator rather than becoming an RIA, right? If I get all kinds of people say, set up a YouTube channel on investments. And then I'm like, if I did that, I'm not going to, because there's plenty for me already. But if I did, I would make it very clear the YouTube channel is for educational purposes only. I'm not an investment advisor. If I was, you'd have to disclose that. Well, Noah, we talked about one big rabbit hole. There's several you could go down, but I think derivatives, going down the derivatives, that's futures, that's options, could be a rabbit hole, right? What do you think, Brian? You got any? I think
you brought up another good one too. We all know there's retirement plans on the test, but there can't be more than 3 or 4 of them. And some of the textbooks have these huge sections, lists of all these things. They're still talking about Kios for crying out loud.
Noah, I was helping with 1,000 insurance agents at this firm to get their 65. So I was their guy. And sometimes, right, I think it's like an infection that runs through the cohort. And all of a sudden they all became obsessed with ERISA. I got to find this person who's, the arsonist who's got them where they go, listen, guys, I don't know why this is all of a sudden become such a huge deal. There's only 1 or 2 questions on ERISA. We know what they are. This is not an area where, people miss their mark. What did you in, Noah? ERISA. No, right? And then Brian, I know too on those retirement plans, it's mainly recognition. 10%, 59.5, RMD 73, no RMD on a Roth, that kind of stuff. It's not in the
ordinary income, not capital gains.
Yeah, and a very basic tax. In fact, we're not supposed to tell people we're tax professionals. So I think vendors go way overboard on taxes at the level that you don't need for 65. So I think all your rabbit holes you suggested could be rabbit holes for sure. Oh, well, Nigel, thank you. Nigel, I love that. You're joining us from LinkedIn. Thank you so much. We broadcast to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And so I'm always excited when I see somebody joining us from LinkedIn. So thank you very much.
Nigel, you're just bragging now, man. He's in Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Yeah. Are we supposed to know that's like a major mecca for golf?
I know it's a really nice place.
Yeah. So it doesn't suck, I guess, right?
It doesn't suck. That's right.
What do you think the 3 things? I got 2, and then I'll give Brian, see if he can add a 3rd. I think target-rich environments are disclosures, unethical business practices. That's 25, 30 questions. Brian, you got a 3rd to add to that? You wanted 3. There's 2.
I do. I look at results, statistics all the time, right? The majority of the people score the highest on the laws and regs section, believe it or not. They score lowest on the business information and investment vehicle section. That's the first and 2.
That's the balance sheet, stuff like that.
Balance sheets. And of course, all the investment products. The gentleman before said, no, he has no finance background. Well, you got to know stocks, you got to know corporate bonds, you got to know derivatives. So it's those first 2 sections that I
Brandon, if you put into the channel search bar fundamental analysis, balance sheet, I have several videos where I go through a balance sheet and income statement with you. Melissa, I've been guilty of going down the derivatives rabbit hole, and now I've been stuck in mutual funds. Well, I think mutual funds are way bigger deal.
I do too.
So, we should add that to our target rich environment. I mean,
that's right.
Highest I've scored is 67. No, I don't think you're wasting time to get a handle on pooled investments. Don't go into a weed on like hedge funds, but open end, closed end funds, definitely. I mean, so I don't like the word fixated, but that's not a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time to be.
Not at all. No.
I do have a promo code. It works for all Kaplan products and services. It's Guru15 at checkout. So Guru15 gives you a 15% discount on all Kaplan products and services. Boy, we get tough questions on these things. Okay, let me tell you something. And Brian and I disagree. There's one of the areas where, that
there's a little different.
A little bit. So, Sean, my experience has been when somebody misses their mark. If I were a corporate trader, the first thing I would do is backstage look at their Qbank usage. There's a direct correlation between low Qbank usage and people who have not passed. Now, when people miss their mark, again, anecdotally, and they're considering getting another Qbank, I say, what's your Qbank usage? Because if they said 50%, I'd say, well, we don't need another Qbank. You got another 1,800 questions you've never seen before. I, as a test taker, and I think here's where Brian and I disagree, perhaps. I think it's a buffet, but I would rather you err on a high Qbank usage rate. Now, Brian and I agree if you're getting 75s, mid 70s. There's no sense to mindlessly be doing practice questions. But I, as a test taker, in terms of my study plan, if I know there's 3,600 questions in the Kaplan Qbank and I'm starting my study plan, in the execution, I would account for exhausting that Qbank. It would be one of my goals as a test taker. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but that's what Dean does. Oh, gee, I read the book, I exhaust the Qbank. Those are my two big things. Now, Brian, I know we differ a little bit on this.
We do. I believe in a high usage as well. I just don't like 3,600 practice questions.
If it's not necessary.
That's right. Because they just go so deep into the
Yeah, and how do we know? So again, Sean.
And the thing is, where's the line between just the right enough and too much? That's kind of ambiguous. But man, as you know, like the 600 pages of textbook, 3,600 just goes way, way too deep.
Yeah.
Initially, you want to take a pretty good deep dive into this thing, right? To lay that foundation. Then once you're ready for the simulated exam, which is much more aligned with the level of difficulty of the test, right? Then you can go back in and do a few of these, and you go, you know what? Half of that crap I just did ain't on the test, right?
Where
that line is, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, Sean, the way I say it is, you're doing practice tests as an intellectual inventory, and depending on what you're missing. So this is where Brian, I think we would agree as well. I had somebody who was missing a question, and I said, well, whether you need to remediate if you miss it once, I don't know. I mean, at some point when you're about 7-10 days out, you're almost exclusively doing practice tests, and that's when you're going to find out little things you still don't know, and you'll consistently still not know things up until test date. But that's what I would say. I would also say you can assign the question that you didn't use to the universe, assuming you're doing the practice tests and you're getting those scores that demonstrate that you're in the right spot, mid 70s or so. So I don't, again, this is kind of like, I think it was Noah, Sean, this is the kind of question I don't like. Somebody who asked about overlapping on 7 and 66. It's just another question that I don't like the spirit of the question, because the Marine in me is like, can I get away with 50%? No, Marine, you do it all. Right. So I just don't like is it enough?
So the answer to that question is, what are your simulated exam scores?
I think Brian's exactly right. We don't know how to answer it without more data.
That's
right. If you were doing practice tests and you're getting mid 70s and you've done 50%, more power to you. I think we're going to say to this one, our answer, Sean, is we need more data. Purchased your 66 course. All right. Been really helpful. All right. I'm taking my 66, 10 days, been averaging 75, 80, and been using Kaplan's performance. Well, that sounds great.
Perfect.
I mean, yeah, that's,
Perfect.
Woo-hoo.
Can we lace that comment in gold? That's perfect. It's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Yes.
I think there is a way to do that. I don't know how to do it.
Oh, I know.
I think I can, I'm going to have to sit down one day and just take a break and learn how to use all my toys. I don't know how to use all my toys all that well.
You're too busy.
The 10 is such a slog. Yeah, I think so. Volkswagen, I would recommend the Kaplan Qbank. Past Perfect gets a little too in the weeds. It wouldn't be my favorite. My two top would be Notman Marks or Kaplan would be what I would add to that. I'm just not a fan of Past Perfect because I think they're fine. I mean, if you can pass theirs, I think you'll pass. But in general, I just think they take you into the weeds a little too much. They get a little obtuse. I don't think that's helpful. Brian, your thoughts on if you're going to get another vendor?
I always, for the principal exams, 9, 10, 24, I always like a combination of STC and Kaplan both.
There you go. I do a practice test, review the topics I missed. Man, act like you were, man, you're our role model for testing.
Really?
I mean, that's fantastic. 66 tomorrow. We think you're going to come back next Tuesday, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to ring the bell and you're following the process.
That's
you're
it.
Listening to the OGs. You're going to get it done, my friend. Hi, Dean. Thanks for all your help. I have the 63 tomorrow. Okay, well, you passed too. I guess that's a bell.
There you
go. Tomorrow, what do you recommend for last minute? Two things. Well, one thing. I don't have one thing.
Mighty 90.
I have 2 videos I'd recommend, Kelsey. My Mighty 90, or your 63 in 60 minutes. That's one. I'd also recommend make it 3. Well, tomorrow, that's tough. Mighty 90. So series 63 and 63 and 60 minutes. I don't have a Mighty 90. I do on the Uniform Securities Act. Either one, don't do both. So either your 63 and 60 minutes or Mighty 90 on the Uniform Securities Act. And then Brian has a video on my channel called Definition of, what do we call it, persons?
Definition and registration of persons.
A person. So there's 2 videos for a last minute review I think would be pretty good. Target rich. We get all kinds of comments. Please look at the video descriptions and comments in the videos. I make corrections. There's 1,700 videos, and every once in a while there's some verbal errata. And people will light me up. I'm like, please go to the video description. You'll find where I've corrected that. And then secondly, look at the comments, because a lot of people for Morale Boost comment on the contributions, that video that Brian did with us, how much it contributed to their testing victory, as well as the Mighty 90. And that could be good for your morale tomorrow. So, hi, everyone. Top 3 topics are definitions to master on the 63. What is it with these top 3s? And, I'm taking my exam this coming week. I've been averaging mid-80s. Oh, my God, that's great. I'd like to touch up. Well, definitions, why don't you watch the video, Gabriel? We just brought up a video that Brian made called Definitions. What we call definitions of persons. I forget, Brian.
Definitions of persons.
Yeah, so check out that video. That would give you all the definitions you need.
That's one of the 3 topics that you have to master.
Yeah.
It's like the first one.
Yeah, I think so. If somebody told me, by the way, all tests, another test taking tip. If somebody told me that I had to test like really quickly and, I didn't have much time, what would Dean do? I think one of the best ways would be I would grab a glossary, of the definitions. Yeah. I would just read the glossary, because that tells you a lot of the stuff, a lot of the recognition questions, for example. I believe most of the test prep vendors do have glossaries, do they not?
Yeah. So far as I know.
Yeah. So, there's somebody who made a video 8 hours long reading the definitions to you. Well, that ain't going to be me. There you go. Woohoo, Maria. Woo-hoo. By the way, we could turn this into a drinking game. Everybody could have a dose.
Oh, my goodness.
Read a chapter. Do practice tests. Yep. Mid-70. Yep. That's exactly right.
Very good.
No. Well, yeah, you should get through the end before you do practice tests. Yeah. I think practice tests, 2 things. People either start practice tests too early or too late. Yes. It's another one where there's a fine line between, too early, where you haven't laid enough base to even know what you're being asked and what answers are being offered to you. And, you need to lay the base first. Or you don't find out you're at risk until it's too late to do anything about it. So I think, and then I'll defer to Brian, so I think we're on the same page on this one. I think you should first lay the base.
Yeah.
And then he's doing the quizzes. And practice tests should begin 7 or 10 days out. That's right. When you start doing your intellectual inventories, seeing what your marks are, seeing whether you're at risk or not. Or we've had getting what was it, Louis? Was you getting 80s or Acolyte, our model student test taker tonight, right? So don't be too early or too late on practice tests, right? So first practice test, I think, would be after you get to, let's say the last unit is 20. Unit 20, you do your custom quiz, 25 questions. Now you're almost doing a practice test because you're doing a cumulative custom quiz on all the units. That should probably be, at that point, you should be 60, 70, 80 questions you're doing. And then maybe take a little refresh, reset, and then practice test time. Right, that's when I would suggest practice tests. Brian, your thoughts on practice tests?
Yeah, on my how to study plan, right? It's laying the base. It's going through all the chapters. Just like you said, you're cumulatively adding chapter tests. I don't do as many questions as most people will do. Yeah. Again, because of all of this, right? I do increase them over time, right? But even after I pass the textbook, I'm still not taking a practice final.
Yeah.
I'm now going into Dean's videos or my videos. That way you take all that stuff from the practice quizzes and from the textbook, and you're consolidating it down to the core content. This is the stuff you got to know. So you lay foundation, you concentrate, then you take your inventory, your intellectual inventory, taking a simulated exam. So that's exactly.
Yeah. So my big test taking tip is another one. We have 3 or 4 test taking tips tonight. Don't be too early. Don't be too late on practice tests. Don't be too early. Don't do a practice test so you laid the base. Don't be too late. 7-10 days out. You need to be able to do course correction, and you don't have enough time to do course correction if you're like 2-3 days out. Now you're doing your first one. So make sure you pay attention to that. All right. Thank you for all the videos. Yes, Dalton. Hard to believe. 1,700 plus videos. Crazy. It's crazy. Past my 63. Woohoo! Good try. All right.
The hat trick.
Hat trick in the house. Dalton, hat trick in the house. Appreciate the tough love. Yeah, there you go. It's the Marine in me, it's Hi, Dean and Brian. Thank you so much for helping. Another hat trick. Wow. No hat trick. I use Brian. There you go. 2 hat tricks in a row. Wow.
The geek and the guru.
Man, we're getting people through their exams. What a turn on it is for it. It's always very gratifying.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. And we know that people, I just had a guy, Brian, how cool is this? He booked tutoring, and then, instead of giving me a super chat, I guess. So I showed up for the tutoring, hit the link, and he goes, Dean, I don't really want tutoring. I just wanted to say thank you in person. And I thought this was the best way I could throw some money your way and say thank you. Well, thank you so much. Particularly when you're thinking, oh my God, all right, buckle up. We're going to be doing something difficult or something. So we love it. We love it. People, we love. Yeah, I see that. People, we love that. People. I had another person just send me, Brian, an email saying these exams have changed their lives. That they're now making money, taking care of their clients, taking care of their family, taking care of themselves. And I always say, if you're poor and you deserve to be rich, there's nothing better than the securities industry. Right. It's one of those areas. I was telling Brian, I never knew I had haters until I got on social media. I probably did, but I just know they were out there. And this guy was giving me a hard time. And I said that the securities industry has been very good to me. I said, I know you're slow and maybe you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you. So I will explain. What that means is I'm rich. And I have enough money working for me that I don't need to work for my money, and I don't need to worry about assholes like you. Getting verbal proof from the client by stock, okay, to process. Well, Joanne, I love this question because it depends on whether you're an investment advisor rep or an agent of a broker dealer. So you didn't tell us who this is. If this is an agent of a broker dealer, the answer is no. You can't exercise discretionary authority on the broker dealer level without the proper written documentation in place. So may they give you a question? Well, hey, Dean, it's in the mail, but go ahead and pick up the stock. No. So that's why I call it the cast of characters, Joanne. When I go to play and they give me a playbill, I always love when they give me a playbill. It tells me the cast, maybe a synopsis of the acts and scenes. I go, who's this guy again? Oh, Iago. Yeah, he's the bad guy. So I think of that on NASA exams. Cast of characters. So they're asking me about a broker dealer, or they ask me about investment advisor? Are they asking about an agent of a broker dealer or an investment advisor rep? So if you first got to read the question for context about who are you being asked about. Now on the investment advisory side, you can have verbal execution for up to 10 days. So very testable. I love Brian. Let me give Brian his whole board there. So there you go. There's Brian. It's a binary thing, right? BD, you go to the left on Brian's board from the way I'm looking at it. The investment advisor, you go to the right. So very much a test question. So is verbal approval from the client to buy a stock okay to process when written approval is not a 5? Well, it depends on verbal approval. Even then, Joanne, I think we need more context because we're assuming that you're being asked, you're going to make a decision about action asset amount. With approval from the client, anybody can do that anytime. If I call Brian and say, Brian, with your approval, I'd like to buy 1,000 shares of GE. That is not a discretionary order. That's solicited, and it was my idea, but I don't need discretionary authority. I only need discretionary authority. So we're adding this to the question. So once again, you have a question that doesn't have enough particulars in it. Right. But by the way, Joanne, there's again part of tough love. I had a guy and he had questions where I wasn't understanding his questions. I said, could you please just send me the question you're looking at? Because it's like a game of telephone without me knowing what you're looking at. So you can certainly send Joanne a particular question to explication request at guruexamprep.com, and I can see what you're looking at. But you didn't mention discretion here. And that board that Brian has behind him is about discretionary authority, right? And you do not have verbal approval for discretionary authority on the broker-dealer side. You can on the investment advisory side. So I don't like that this doesn't tell us what you mean about verbal approval. We're assuming, and the test issue is about discretionary authority. I'm also making that assumption because you said written approval. So we're assuming you're talking about discretion, which is very testable.
Yeah.
65, 3 weeks. Looks like we're coming to the end of our time together, Brian. Sorry, I'm running a little over.
That's okay.
A very testable, Joanne. You need 12 educational credits, 6 on products, 6 on ethics. After December 31st, I ever get additional time? No. For test purposes, you don't get additional time and they don't roll over. If you don't complete them, then you go into a status of where you got to get them done before you can conduct business. That's not the test question. The test question is the 12 and they don't roll over. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
They might break it down to the 6 and 6.
Yeah. By the way, maybe Joanne, that you can double dip on the product side with your broker dealer continuing ed, but you can't product dip on the regulatory side. In other words, it's got to be separate. Chinese wall, I think I'll see the term. Chinese wall is called a research information barrier. And what this is about keeping material non-public information segregated from those who need it and those who do not need it.
Even within the same company.
Right on. Did you see that? I think UPS was so funny, Brian. They made the HR department about an intern starting her day at UBS. And they got so many people making fun of them that they pulled it down like in 2 hours because she was walking across the UBS trading floor. Hi. And the head trader was, oh, welcome to I think it was UBS. Welcome to UBS. And then she's walking in investment banking. Everybody was making fun of them. There's nobody who has a badge. We'll go into every area of the broker dealer. Trade dates are different. They're not. It's all. I don't know why this keeps coming up, Andrew. It's always T+1. Everything is T+1. It doesn't matter if it's multiple transaction. Trade date is when you agree to terms. Settlement is when ownership changes. It's always T+1 unless it's cash settlement. Cash settlement is a way to accelerate. The way I think of it is, regular way. All regular way trades under the Uniform Practice Code, which standardizes practices within the securities industry, are T+1. Are there irregular ways to settle trades? The answer is yes, Andrew. I brought up one DVP, up to 35 calendar days. I brought up another one, cash settlement, same day. But we always assume people do in regular way. Just be careful. Reg T says clients get 2 additional days from settlement. But that's not regular way settlement. So clients on T+1 plus 2, then I call Brian and say, hey, where's your money? Where's your securities? So customers get 2 additional days, but between broker dealers, T+1. That should be an aim and shoot point and click question. I don't know why people try and make that tougher than it is.
Dean, bring yourself back.
Oh, sorry. I was doing so good. That's the first time I forgot.
Yeah,
That hurts my man. I was on a good roll. All test takers should have a dump sheet with the options matrix, or what Brian calls the options aerobics. Absolutely. Yes. Record retention. I like it. No calculation of the margin. So it sounds like Diesel's giving us some debrief. All fits what we know, that margin is not a big deal on the actual test. Are there any topics you would add to that sense? No, I got to make a mighty 90, even though all those are still spot on. So that's a video is still current. I don't know why people just assume because the video is 4 years old that it's not current. I would take it down. So if Brian and I didn't think our videos were current, we would make corrections.
Because mine are even.
All right, Brian, what do you think should be our word for the drawing? It looks like we're on the drawing time.
Are we?
So we got Isaac, welcome. Mark Esposito, he's another brother from another mother. So my 2 favorite people doing what we do is Espo, and Brian. This isn't a place, Casey, to push Ken's content on my channel, but that's fine. If Ken's your guy, that's helpful. As I said, nobody should be not monogamous about passing their exam. I do get aggravated, Casey, when Ken sometimes pretends that he doesn't know what Michael Weiss's discount code is. He doesn't have a discount code. He has a portal, and they pretend they don't know it's 10% and mine's 15. So I made a post, Brian. I said, Ken, I would appreciate if you don't make Kaplan breakpoint sales when you know there's a better discount for people, and pretend you know that there is. Don't be afraid. That's not a good test, mentalist. You can't be afraid. You got to go slay the dragon. So you should schedule your test. Okay, and here we go. Tough love. Best practice from the OGs. You should never begin a execution of a study plan without a test date. So the idea you're going to, mythically come to a place where it's time to get a test date is not the way to proceed. The way to proceed is to set the date and then reverse engineer the study plan. You should not put it for mid-September. You should keep the end of the month and you should go get that date. Tuesday, Melissa, when you show back up on Tuesday night, unless I piss you off and you decide you're never coming back, I want you to tell me what your test date is. And then remember, you're not alone. You're part of the Guru Nation. We will help you. We will drag you across the finish line. So get the date. Brian, was I too tough on Melissa or not?
Not at all. Melissa, make sure you run a performance tracker on that 67 score and work and remediate those weak areas.
And 67, Melissa, the variance is in your favor. If you told us you were testing tomorrow with a 67, Brian and I would think there's a better chance than not that you're going to pass. So you're in a good spot. So get the date. And then deal with the fear and anxiety later, but get that date. I think it's tougher than the actual exam.
No doubt.
How do I get the study guide? I don't know what you mean by the study guide. I want to know. I think you put it on there. Study plan. Just send Brian at testgeekexamprep.com. I'll put that back up there for you. Send him an email and he'll send that to you.
Yeah.
All right. I think, Brian, let me just see. I think we're done. That's right. I love that, Melissa. That's exactly what it is. Encouragement. So I hope when we get aggressive that, people don't misunderstand the aggression of helping you for anything other than our love to get you across that finish line. Right. So, all right, Brian, what did you decide the word is for today? Now, wait, guys, don't put that into the chat yet because I got to bring up the giveaway tool. So give me a sec here before you start putting that.
That's why I was in front of it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Brian. Maybe we, come on, Dean. Where is this? The Wheel of Fortune. There we go. And Brian says, what's the word going to be, Brian? Okay, don't put it. Oh, I love that. That's a good one. Choose the live stream. Boom, boom. Monsoon. Now, when I put this up on the thing to win the coaching call, you've got to put it into the chat exactly the way I'm going to show it to you on the screen. So be careful that you don't put any typos in there because then that won't work. All right. So boom. There we go. And let's get Melissa there. And if you win, remember, let's get rid of that. If you win, you're going to go collect your winnings at, you go to the window. No, I'm joking. deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You go to the coaching class tab and you can register. Anybody else want to partake in our lottery? Going once? Going twice? Anybody else? Last call. Last call. All right, here we go. Oh, one more at the last minute. Last call. Shay. So Shay, go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com and I'll see you for your coaching call. And we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about for whatever exam you're taking. What a great Tuesday. Thank you so much. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Arizona time. And so remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian, you say?
You got to learn to keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.